Hey, it's Brian Bennett. I'm a pastor, I'm a leadership coach, and I'm also a strategist. In this video, I'm going to walk us to think through what's the cost of success to us. Because there's a good cost to pay, but there's also a bad cost to pay. And if we pay the wrong cost for success, what we'll end up finding is we never achieve success at all. We might have achieved money, we might have achieved a title, we might have achieved an accomplishment or fame, but in the end, we paid the wrong cost and we're not really successful. So that's what I want us to think about, guide us to think through and to make sure as we're looking at our life, as we're looking at our work, as we're looking at the goals that we have and the things that we're trying to do, what's the right cost to pay and what's the wrong cost to pay, and that can make all the difference. I can think of seasons in my life, and I remember one in particular where I was trying to accomplish a master's degree and learn and go through those classes, and we were married but we didn't have kids, and I was working and overseeing, managing staff, and I was taking 4 classes. And these weren't entry-level classes, these were 4 master-level classes. And I look back on that season, and I, in the moment, knew there came some point where it's just like impossible to keep up. And I just misjudged. I wanted so badly to accomplish and get done with that degree and move forward, get that learning and continue developing, that I paid the wrong cost because it took away from my relationship with my wife. Now, not just a little bit, not just for a little bit of a season. I had been in school for a while at that point, and it just destroyed my rhythm of life. It just completely turned me upside down trying to manage those 4 classes. And this was years ago, before I kind of learned the lesson of burnout and learned some other lessons the hard way. But I paid the wrong cost for success. There's been other seasons of my life where I've paid the right cost of success, where I've put down the TV remote and I did something. I wrote more, or I studied more, or I exercised more. But putting down the TV remote has rarely cost me the wrong way. Putting down the TV remote has normally helped me. Not spending time just randomly looking at social media, that normally is a good cost to pay for me. Doesn't mean it's wrong for me to look at social media. Doesn't mean it's unhelpful for me to engage on social media. I find that to be helpful. But when I allow myself to kind of veg out on something social, consume, normally I pay the wrong cost there. So when I avoid it, when I just within healthy parameters and boundaries engage social media, that's a good cost for me to pay. So think about your life. Think about your goals that you have for your career, or goals that you have for your home, goals that you have for your own exercise, your own health, and you think about the different goals that you have and the things that you're doing and the way that you've ordered and structured your life. Are you paying the right cost or the wrong cost? Sometimes we can pay a cost, and for a week we need to travel or be gone a significant amount. But if we do that every week, if we're only home 10% of the time, at some point that will catch up to us and have a negative cost on our family. If we're never spending quality time with our spouse, at some point that will cost us and it will catch up with us. If we're not investing in mutual friendships and pouring in, engaging with others, at some point that will catch us. If we're not prioritizing our self-care, at some point, if we're not willing to do that, or if we're not willing to pay the cost of being sore as we get back into the gym, or eating less, or eating something healthier, if we're not willing to pay that cost, at some point that will catch us. And here's the challenge with all of this, is we can rationalize the cost very easily. So we can rationalize the cost of always being gone with work all the time, because we say, hey, someday it won't be the case. Now, if we're just struggling to survive, I get that. But at some point beyond that, we're telling ourselves a story that isn't true. Because the higher you go, the more that's required. And if we're in a field, or if we're in a company and we're just constantly gone, and it's just putting in a significant amount of strain, or if we're home but we're always working, if we're working nonstop and we have no boundaries, and we have no space where we can just be with our family and invest in those relationships, that cost will catch us. And we can tell ourselves it's for a season, but if we're constantly saying it's a busy season, if we're constantly saying I've just got to get through this and then the next level it'll relax a little bit, normally that's rationalizing a bad cost. We can pick up the TV remote and say, I've worked hard all week. I deserve a little time. And there's nothing wrong with watching TV. There's nothing wrong with looking at social media or all those different things. But if we're not careful, we're watching hours of TV every single night instead of investing in ourselves physically or mentally or emotionally, or instead of investing in relationships with our children or spouse or friends. And that's a cost that we don't want to pay in the long term. And so it's so easy to rationalize, I work hard. Hey, this is for my family. It's about, I want to get a bigger house for my family, even though my family's not asking for it. And what my kids want more than anything is my presence, right, in their lives. It's easy for us to come up with a reason to rationalize an unhealthy cost that we're willing to pay. And that's why we need others in our life who are going to help us be aware, help us stay on track. But there's no substitute for us being honest with ourselves and having a dialogue with those who are closest to us, whatever our home environment or close friendships look like. And so we need others who are going to speak into our life. We need friends. We might need a coach or a mentor or someone who's going to come along. But having honest conversations both with ourselves and with those closest to us will help us greatly to not rationalize the cost and pay the wrong cost. The second thought is this, is don't just let our personal preferences determine how we live each day. Don't just let what we want determine how we live each day. And so if you think about it more in terms of a domino. If I choose this choice, yeah, I may want that, but what's the effect of that? It hits another domino, it hits another domino. So if I choose to work extra at work because I want a motorcycle, okay, for 3 months, I'm going to work overtime every chance I get. Here's the domino for the next 3 months. I'm going to be a little away from the family, but after that, things will be settled back down. Okay, I'm willing to pay that cost. Now, for other dominoes, though, if I choose right now to do this, it's going to put this stress on my spouse, and then that's going to, right now, I don't think our relationship is really in a healthy place to handle extra stress. I don't know if that's a good cost to pay. If I work harder on this project for the next 3 weeks and I kind of burn the candle and I talk to my spouse and my friends or whoever and kind of let them know I'm going to be burning the candle, I think that's a healthy cost I want to pay right now. And I don't see a detrimental outcome to that, okay? So we're constantly weighing. If I choose this action, here's not just this action, my preference, but here's the other dominoes that it hits. Now, when I think about it hitting those other dominoes, I'm weighing, is those outcomes, am I good with them? Am I good with the effects on my relationship with my teenage daughter? Let's just say that she's 17 and she's got 2 more years in the house, and you're going to work overtime for 3 months to save up for something, some vacation, something like that. Okay, but what about if it's her last 3 weeks in the home? Let's say now she's 18 and it's her last 3 weeks before she goes to college. Do you really want to work overtime? Probably not. You probably want to be present before she leaves. You probably don't want the relationship to transition like that. I'm assuming maybe not. Maybe you're okay with it for various reasons. But that's what I mean. Different situations call for a different response. And that's why it's so significant that we ask ourselves this question. What cost am I willing to pay? And is this a good cost or is this a bad cost? What cost am I willing to pay here? And is this a good cost and a bad cost? We've got to choose good costs. We've got to choose to put down the remote and hit the treadmill. We've got to choose to drop the fried food and pick up the more healthier food or whatever it is. We've got to choose the good cost of growing and changing and developing for the sake of our team at work and going through new training or changing our behavior in order to better serve them. But we don't want to pay the bad cost. We don't want to pay the bad cost that pushes others around us away, that isolates us from them, that leads us into further loneliness and builds distance or tension in the key relationships of our life. So knowing whether it's a good cost or bad cost and being willing to pay the right cost is essential for us to experience peak performance.